All right, Mounce BBG, chapter 13, and this is sentence 4. Begins with a prepositional phrase with the little caveat that you'll notice that little second word, which is always what's called a postpositive, and you probably know by now that day and gar, which is four, translated four, is also postpositive. Day is postpositive. You probably learned day as but as the sort of the most common translation. I would tell you that from a linguistic perspective that quite often, and especially in narrative, what you're going to find is that this simply functions as a sort of an event marker and better translated as and. Um, so, it's sort of like you tell a story and this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. So the and is sort of that idea of, okay, one event, second event, third event, that kind of event marker, and day functions in that way quite often. And once again, especially when you have some kind of a story being told, which is what is the case here. So I would argue that the best translation for day in this sentence is going to be and. All right, now if you kind of yank that or move it to the front, then what you have is this prepositional phrase that begins with ek and ends with a kines. So you have the ek, and then you have several words that you'll notice all have this. And of course, this one you might not recognize as a genitive singular, but certainly the definite article at this point you should recognize as a genitive singular. And your demonstrative pronoun you should recognize as genitive singular. So, and this from a kainos, so this is going to be that or those, and in this case, that. And another thing that's true is you can look at all these genitive singulars and you'll say, oh, and of course, Paula is from polis or city. But you look at this and you kind of say, well, wait a minute, I learned genitive as possessive, but the fact is it follows a preposition, and that preposition happens to take the genitive if it's going to mean something like from or out of. In this case, probably best just to do it simply as from. So you're going to say something like, and from that city. Okay? And again, don't get too caught up in that about, trying to do mental gymnastics. I mean, we can come really close to that if you just read it straight across. Again, you probably have to move the post positive, but still. And from the city that, well, which city? That city. So, you pretty easily can come up with that prepositional phrase meaning and from that city. Okay. Then you have poloi, which is an adjective with a nominative plural, masculine ending there. So you're going to look at that and you're going to say, okay, I know it means many. And in this case, it just means many, but it's many as a subject. So many did what? Many believed. So that means, you automatically have agreement with the they, because when you have a third plural like that, it's going to take that plural subject. Okay. So you got, and out of that city, many believed. And here you have ace auton, and ace, is in. Auton is going to be oops, sorry about that, trying to get it. Well, it's fighting with me. There we go. That new ending should automatically, you should look at a new ending and go accusative. A lot of the time you look at a new ending and you're going to see, you should see an accusative. So And of course, ace often takes the accusative. In this case, simply they believed in him. Many believed in him. So, and from that city, many believed in him. And then you have this tone semiritone. Well, there you really do have this kind of idea of the keyword of. Semiritone, of course, genitive plural. That's not hard to see, right? Either in the definite article or the semiritone. Omega nu. That's another thing. See omega nu in every declension, every gender. It's always genitive plural. So that's just, as soon as you see omega nu, you ought to be thinking genitive plural. That's easy enough. But how does this relate to the clause? Well, tone semiritone of the Samaritans. Where does it fit in the sentence? Because again, word order doesn't have anything to do with it. So, of the Samaritans believed in him. Of the Samaritans, well, no. Well, of the Samaritans is a portion of what group? It's many. So it's going to go. You're going to put that with many, and say something like many of the Samaritans believed in him is the best way to play with tone semiritone, because otherwise it's a little bit awkward in English. Many believed in him of the Samaritans. Well, you can get pretty close if you just do it straight like that, but you're better served to say, well, as a genitive, in terms of if I'm listening and I'm hearing this phrase of the Samaritans, well, what does it go with? And of course, many of the Samaritans makes perfect sense. So, that should work for you. Okay, dia is the next prepositional phrase, and I would take this whole clause right here at the end as the last part of the sentence, and I would tell you that, man, when you see dia in a New Testament situation, the first choice that ought to pop into your head is because of. Man, it can mean through. There are other options, but I would tell you most of the time when I'm reading the New Testament, the very first translation that pops into my head is because of, and I would encourage you to think that way as well. Just right out of the canon. All right, so because of, ton logon is easy enough. Of course, dia can take the accusative, so you look at the nu and you say, okay, I got those accusatives there as the object of the preposition, and logon you should know as logos, from logos. That's easy enough. So because of the word. Then you have tes gunikos. Well, you look at that and you kind of go, well, that's kind of weird, because that looks like a nominative singular masculine ending, and that's not right. So if you think that might fool you, well, go over the definite article. Since you got one, that's easy enough. As soon as you see tes, you know that it's feminine, you know that it's singular, you know that it's genitive. So you know that has to agree with the noun, so you're done. Even if you can't quite fit this word into your brain at the moment, it should be easy enough to match up with the definite article and come away with, like I said, genitive, feminine, singular. And hopefully you get from your vocabulary that means woman. So can mean wife, of course, in context. But in this case, many of the Samaritans believed in him because of the word of the woman. So, not difficult. And in this particular case, this is pretty much straight, because of the word of the woman. That's really pretty straightforward. So once again, final analysis, and from that city, many many of the Samaritans believed in him because of the word of the woman.